Evan Torres stood at the edge of the combat arena, his heart pounding against his ribs like a war drum. The atmospheric processors hummed overhead, maintaining the station's Earth-standard gravity, a small mercy, considering what he was about to face. Across the circular platform, Susan of House Velthari stretched her forearms with practiced grace, each movement fluid and precise. Her iridescent purple skin caught the overhead lights, and her three eyes, two forward-facing, one on the side of her elongated skull, fixed on him with predatory focus. She was Krevnathi, one of the most formidable warrior species in the known galaxy. And she hadn't lost a challenge match in 7 cycles. "You're certain about this, human?" Her voice carried across the arena, melodious despite the translator's flat interpretation. The translator couldn't quite capture the amused condescension in her native tongue. Evan rolled his shoulders, feeling the tension in his muscles. 20 other humans from the diplomatic vessel watched from the viewing gallery, their faces pressed against the transparent aluminum. He could see Captain Morrison's disapproving scowl even from here. "I'm certain," Evan called back. Susan's mouth wider than a human's, filled with crystalline teeth curved into something that might have been a smile. "And you understand the terms? If you beat me in single combat, I'll honor the traditional Krevnathi pledge." She paused, her secondary arms spreading wide. "I'll be in your bed tonight, human. Vidwive. Nauerment. Vidwive. Vidwive. Vidwive." A murmur rippled through both the human and alien spectators. The Krevnathi in attendance clicked their mandibles in what Evan had learned was laughter. To them, this was comedy. A human, barely 6 feet tall with only 2 arms, challenging one of their champions. "I understand," Evan said simply. What the Krevnathi didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, was that Evan Torres had spent 3 years studying their combat forms. While other diplomats focused on trade agreements and cultural exchanges, Evan had immersed himself in Krevnathi martial philosophy. He'd watched thousands of hours of their challenge matches, broken down every movement, every pattern. Humans had one advantage that many alien species overlooked: adaptability. Where the Krevnathi trained in rigid, traditional forms passed down through millennia, humans innovated. They absorbed, modified, and evolved. The arena master, a massive Krevnathi male with scarred chitin plates, raised his primary arm. "Combatants ready. First to yield or be rendered unable to continue loses." His arm dropped. "Begin." Susan moved like liquid lightning, all 4 arms working in concert. She came at Evan with a traditional Velthari opening high feint with her dominant right, actual strike with her lower left, grapple attempt with her remaining arms. Evan had seen this exact sequence 43 times in recorded matches. He dropped low, spinning inside her reach, and drove his elbow into the nerve cluster beneath her lower rib cage. A vulnerable point. The Krevnathi rarely protected because most species couldn't reach it while avoiding their 4-armed assault. Susan's breath exploded out in a surprised hiss. She backpedaled, her eyes widening. The human spectators erupted in cheers. The Krevnathi fell silent. "First blood to the human," the arena master announced. Though no actual blood had been drawn, Susan's demeanor changed. The playfulness vanished from her expression, replaced by cold focus. She began to circle, more cautious now, her movements shifting into a different form, Karveth style, aggressive and overwhelming. She came again, faster this time, a whirlwind of strikes that would have pulverized a human skull if any connected. But Evan wasn't there when her fists arrived. He'd already read the pattern, seen the telltale shift in her hip that telegraphed each combination. Humans were slower than Krevnathi, weaker, certainly. But what humans lacked in raw physical ability, they compensated for with pattern recognition and predictive thinking. Evan's brain was running calculations his conscious mind couldn't articulate, processing Susan's movements through the filter of hundreds of matches he'd studied. He caught her secondary right wrist mid-strike, used her own momentum to pull her off balance, and swept her legs. Susan crashed to the mat with a thunderous impact that shook the platform. Before she could recover, Evan had her in a modified chokehold. Modified because Krevnathi anatomy required pressure on different arteries than human anatomy. Yield, he said quietly, close to where her auditory membrane would be. For a long moment, Susan struggled. Her superior strength should have let her break free easily. But Evan had positioned his body weight perfectly, used leverage and technique to neutralize her physical advantages. Finally, she tapped the mat twice with her free hand. I yield. The arena erupted in chaos. The humans were cheering wildly. The Krevnathi were stunned into silence, then began clicking their mandibles in what Evan now recognized as respect. He released Susan immediately and offered her his hand, an earth gesture he'd taught her during their previous diplomatic encounters. She stared at his hand for a moment, then took it, allowing him to help her up. Her three eyes studied him with new appreciation. You studied our forms. Every single one I could find, Evan admitted. Your people are incredible warriors, but you're also predictable. You follow the ancient forms perfectly, which means once someone knows the forms, they know you. Susan was quiet for a moment. Then that crystalline smile returned. But this time, it held genuine warmth. We Krevnathi honor our pledges, Evan Torres. She leaned closer, her voice dropping. But know this, I will study your forms now. There will be a rematch. Evan grinned. I'm counting on it. As they walked off the arena floor together, Evan realized something the other diplomats had missed. This wasn't about proving human superiority. It was about earning respect. The Krevnathi respected strength, but they admired intelligence and determination, and humanity had both in abundance.